Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dan and I'm here to bring you another FPL video. In this one, we're going to be looking at my team selection ahead of Game Week 33. Of course, Game Week 32 has now all been said and done. We have a very fast turnaround now between the two game weeks where there is a Tuesday evening deadline for those of you that don't know. So in this video, we'll be looking at how my team is shaping up, possible transfer routes and plans, a little recap on the free hit activation for Game Week 32. Of course, we also look at captaincy data and other useful information ahead of 33. So let's jump into how I got on first of all on that free hit usage. Overall, I would say it was a success. Now, even though I didn't get a green arrow this week, I scored 63 points. There was a very, very minor red arrow, almost a grey arrow in some cases, right? I was 62.4k ahead of this week, and now I'm just a little outside of the 63k mark. So about a 700 red arrow in terms of rank, really nothing when you look at the total amount of rank in there. So overall, I do think it's a success. I would say that I think the points I would have scored if I didn't activate the chip would have been somewhere in the 20-ish range, 30 range maybe maximum. So I would have been about 30, 40 points off of the mark in terms of the average points, right, for free hitters. So I would have been very, very far behind, would have been a huge red arrow. And I really don't feel like there was much difference for my team personally between free hitting in 34 and actually being able to transfer or use my free transfer, should I say, between now and Game Week 34 to get a very similar team. So actually, free hit 32 worked for me overall. Hopefully, it did mean a green arrow for you guys. And then we'll just touch on a couple of different points here for the team. So overall, I did go for a pretty template team, I would say. I didn't really differentiate too much. I went with Alex Moreno and Eze as the kind of maybe two differentials as opposed to some other midfield and defensive options. Unfortunately, that I was on the wrong side of that. Some individuals went for Castagna as that third defensive option. Some people had the double up of Palace defence in Mark Gahey, and both of those individuals scored way more points than Alex Moreno. So Gahey would have scored me 4 more. Castagna, of course, coming in with that hero goal and 10 points overall. So a fantastic performance and very, very good job if you did go for him. I will note that I did say that I was fully against him. So very well played for those that went against my advice. And of course, Eze missing out on a goal after being disallowed for offside. So unfortunate on that basis, he would have returned more than likely 10 or 11 points from that one goal alone. But it is what it is. This is the team we chose. Of course, we got on the wrong side of the Gakpo versus Jota situation. Even Robertson in the mix as well to some degree, right, after providing an attacking return for Liverpool's win. So just overall, I just feel like there was many things that didn't really swing my way. But ultimately, I didn't play too differential either. So I can't realistically complain. So overall, bit of a grey arrow, but it is what it is. Let's move forward now to the back end of the business end of the season now, Game Weeks 33 and beyond. Let's have a look at the transfer plans for me in Game Week 33. Now, there's only realistically 2 individuals I think I'm going to target. Now, both of these are somewhat knee-jerk here. We have got, of course, Isak, which were in my plans, actually, or he was in my plans prior to the brace that he scored against Spurs, I must admit. But I'm just now looking at Diogo Jota as a possible option instead earlier on, because I actually think with that double Game Week 34, in terms of quick turnarounds, there is absolutely chance here that I take a bit of a risk with him based on rotation. My gut feeling is, though, that because Diaz is still not back to full squad fitness, and of course it looks like we're seeing Gakpo and Nunez kind of share the minutes for that number 9 or forward slot in the middle, I think Jota's probably going to start more than likely on the left on a lot of these games, even though they're fast turnarounds. So I think he's a good shout. It covers a Liverpool asset or a Liverpool attacker in 33. Although it's not the Egyptian king in Mohamed Salah, it does still mean that I've got a little bit of Liverpool cover against this West Ham fixture, which I was slightly afraid of. And then, of course, double game week 34, I immediately get a double game weeker for this weekend coming up, right? Whereas with Isak, it is a favourable fixture against Southampton in 34, but I have to wait until game week 36 to really take advantage of the full amount of fixtures I'll be getting with him. So either way, I do think Harry Kane is on the chopping block for me. He's tied up. I've got too many funds tied up in him, realistically, in terms of being able to get to Mohamed Salah for game week 34. which I'm looking at selling Bukayo Saka for, it looks like Kane's my only route to get out of that, essentially. And I'm not too sure I want to take a -4 this week. It is an option, but I'm not convinced with it. I think instead I'll just be using the 1 free transfer, Kane for one of these two, and move forward from there. But let me know in the comments below which one of these two you'd prefer. I'm currently about 70% swung towards Diogo Jota. I think Isak makes sense later on. I think I'm probably going to remove Ollie Watkins around game week 36 when Newcastle double for Isak for the back end of the season when Villa's fixtures turn. But that's my current plans. But again, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. Then we'll have a look at the captaincy data table. Now, this is a table I put together on all my team selection videos, essentially breaking down all the information available to us on Fantasy Football Scout to have a look at where the opponents that these individuals are facing concede the most chances, or which type of area are they looking like we can sort of benefit from in terms of a defensive weakness, let's say. And we can pick out these selected players here, I think, to look at possible captaincies. I think the majority of individuals are probably going to end up on Erling Haaland. Of course, when he's in your squad, it's very hard to not put the armband on him, unfortunately. It is difficult. It's not to say that there aren't differentials out there this week, though, which is why I wanted to highlight it. So just to talk through the table first of all, if we take Mohamed Salah as an example, of course, we know he plays on the right-hand side predominantly in terms of a position. You look at his opposition this week in West Ham United, and in the past 4 game weeks, they have conceded 4 chances on the right-hand side. So that just kind of gives you a bit of a breakdown on what the table means. And then, of course, the points last 5 are the last 5 FPL outings that these individuals have had, as well as a total over the last 5. So I'm leaning towards Haaland still, as always. Again, I'm finding it a little bit difficult to go too differential in terms of the captaincy. I do like the Jota move in terms of a differential this week. I think he's only 2-point-something% owned. And if he pops off against West Ham as opposed to Salah, that potentially does mean we're into green arrow territory once again. So I think that's enough for me to go for in terms of a differential this week. But for captaincy, I'm not so confident I want to swing either way. But there are options in front of us here. So out of these options, I think I've highlighted the top 3 realistically. I think Rob Holding's actually done quite a good job against all the oppositions that he's faced, I suppose, in the last few game weeks in Saliba's absence. That being said, though, they did concede many goals against Southampton that nobody saw coming. So I think at the Etihad, City are going to control this game, and I do think this man is going to have chances, regardless of what conceded chances Arsenal have provided us in terms of a statistic. I still think Haaland is going to be able to capitalise to some degree. The other 2 that I've selected, though, are Mohamed Salah and Harry Kane. Now, Harry Kane may be a little bit of a strange one because I'm looking at actually selling him. Again, as mentioned, that's for my personal team to free up funds. Now, I know a lot of people that watch this channel, me included, who's actually creating the content, have stuck by Kane for a very long time. I think he is Mr. Consistent. But when we look at this data here, 9 chances conceded by Manchester United from the central area. Now, we know that Kane doesn't always operate there. He does operate kind of as a bit of a sweeper in that kind of front 3. There's a bit of a kind of rotation sometimes, and he does drop a little bit deeper. But that being said, I still feel like he's definitely someone who can capitalise on the weaknesses of United at the moment. We haven't got our first choice centre-backs. We played 120 minutes against Brighton in the FA Cup semi-final, which is a little bit longer than, of course, the 90. It is worth noting we are playing on Thursday, though, so it's a normal kind of gap, should I say, in between what United players are used to when we've got a Sunday fixture and a Europa fixture on Thursday anyway. So it's not too different or difficult for us to sort of, be back and ready and firing on all cylinders again. But I do think that Harry Kane could be a very, very good differential captain, especially as I think a lot of people are looking at removing him like I am. So not only does he feature in terms of great statistics and numbers here with this sort of level of data, but actually he's got a great sort of differential captain shout about him as well. And then finally with Salah, I do just think Liverpool started to tick now from an attacking point of view, and I would expect him still to be on penalties if Fabinho doesn't step up to the next one. So I think that you've always got to consider that Salah can do some damage. Now West Ham, it is worth noting, they have improved, let's say, over the past few weeks. I think the result against Arsenal was a fantastic result for them. Of course, then showing up against Bournemouth, winning 4-0 4-0 very, very comfortably as well, I might add. I think that was a statement to show that they do belong in the Premier League. So against a sort of difficult opposition once again in Liverpool, they can really showcase their defensive prowesses and maybe shut them out. Who knows? But I still think that Mohamed Salah finds a way or will potentially be able to find a way, which is why I've also thought a differential captaincy on him could be a good shout. Moving into how the team is shaping up then finally, we have got my defensive lineup first of all here. Now, I am looking at David Raya as the starting 11 at the moment. This is subject to change, absolutely, but because I've got Ben Chilwell in my team still, I'm not too sure I'm convinced on a Chelsea double up of defence. And I think that David Raya's ceiling or point ceiling, because of the amount of saves that he makes and the amount of shots that he faces, potentially gives him almost the same amount of point ceiling as what Kepa would have if he sort of just had a clean sheet, essentially, and Chelsea controlled the game. So I feel like that's my logic at the moment, but that might change come the deadline. I think with Ben Chilwell, Brentford actually, from a defensive point of view, haven't got very good numbers. Chilwell, from an attacking point of view, definitely does have. It's just that Chelsea aren't finishing off the chances he creates. So hopefully that changes in this week and we start seeing some returns. But I think that's why Ben Chilwell has to come into this team for me this week. We've then got Kieran Trippier and Estepinian either side of them. Of course, Trippier not having an attacking return after Newcastle scoring 6 goals, I don't think is going to be a common situation across the rest of the season. I think he's a season-long hold, especially with the double game week in 36 for Newcastle, and of course Everton away I think is a very positive fixture for the Geordies. So expecting some good returns from there. Estepinian's a bit tricky. He did play 120 minutes, but I don't feel like I've got any other defensive coverage other than potentially going with Botman as a double up. But I just feel like Estepinian's attacking numbers look much, much better than someone like Botman, who potentially is just that 6-point ceiling. Then as we look into the midfield, I have shaping up with 4 in midfield. I've got Bukayo Saka, Matoma, Marcus Rashford, and Jack Grealish to make up my lineup. Saka and Grealish is a really tricky one, really, because I could bench either of these. I have got Solly March on the bench at the moment, just because essentially he played 120 minutes, as did Matoma, but Matoma didn't seem as leggy, really, as March. I felt like he potentially, I think he had a very, very small knock on his foot early on in the match, 25 minutes-ish, something like that. And I don't think he carried the injury very well for that 120 minutes. He fought through it, but I don't think he realistically showcased what Solly March can do in his sort of true form, let's say. I think he's played very, very well under De Zerbi, but I'm not sure I can justify bringing him in ahead of Saka, Grealish or Matoma here. So I think this is my lineup. I don't think I'm going to be changing this. It is worth noting that I could go for the -4 1 week early. I could go for Mohamed Salah instead of Saka. Once I've freed up the funds by selling Harry Kane this week, I could do that and essentially have a secondary Liverpool attacker on a favourable West Ham fixture. But I'm still convinced that this City and Arsenal game is going to be quite explosive. I think Arteta may try to play it a little bit reservedly, but I just think that on the counter-attack, City are probably going to control the game, but on the counter-attack, Arsenal absolutely have devastating wingers in Saka and Martinelli, and I feel like selling him this week is maybe just 1 week too soon. So that's where I'm at the moment. With my attacking front three then, as mentioned, if I do go for Diogo Jota, this would be the lineup. I'd have Erling Haaland, Diogo Jota, and Ollie Watkins as the front three. I'm not too sure, like I said, I can really kind of swing maybe towards a captaincy on my differential pick of Jota. I think Haaland's going to maybe struggle a little bit against Arsenal to some degree, but I expect that City should come into this game dominating possession and him dominating chances, as he always does. I just think he makes the most sense for the captaincy shout, as we can see here. But I have actually gone with a vice-captain on Jota, even though I don't think this will come into play. And then on the bench, as mentioned, Kepa, still undecided on him, whether he comes in for David Raya. Solly March, a little bit tricky, I think, to bench one of these attacking assets. So let me know in the comments below if you would swap anybody out for March. Of course, Botman, as mentioned, he could maybe come in for Estepinian, but I don't see myself playing 4 at the back. And then finally, Rico Henry against Chelsea away. Absolutely no chance I'll be playing him or even a double up with David Raya, right? So third bench asset, I don't think he comes into my thinking whatsoever. But of course, also let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are for your teams, what your transfer plans are, any bench headaches like I've got. Let me know in the comments and let's try to help each other out. And then finally, guys, one last thing before we close the video off. the FPL Link Mini League. Of course, the front three really in terms of this league are pulling away, and they are just pretty consistent, to be fair. I mean, Jan Aigner has closed the gap on George by a few points here. He's now only 4 points behind. We have got a new addition, I think, in fourth place, who I've not seen before. I don't recognise that name. But yeah, we have got a new member entering into the top 10 here in Mateusz. So welcome to the top 10 club of the mini league, sir. But yeah, fantastic to see so much consistency. The very similar numbers, though, across all this top 10, right? We've got a couple of 77s in there, which are very, very strong. But the majority of us looking at those low 60s to mid 60s in terms of our points, right? So if you're not already part of the mini league, then feel free to use the link in the description below this video or the code directly for the website or the mobile app. Of course, there will be a football related prize for the winner as well. So feel free to join. It's completely free and it's all just a bit of fun, right? Helps support the channel, I suppose, in some degree as well. And then finally, guys, to sign off, thanks very much for watching the content. Hopefully you found it useful and valuable as always. I will be doing a live stream tomorrow evening ahead of the deadline, so feel free to join me on that, where I'll be answering all your dilemmas, benching headaches, and so on live. And of course, as well, guys, if you did enjoy the content, consider subscribing to me if you haven't already, and hitting that thumbs up button as well to support the channel. And I will no doubt see you in another video soon or a live stream soon. So take care. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.